It's your boy John Solomon. Y'all now tuned into F.A.M.E TV.
Philly fan. Philly fan. Alright, John Solomon, what's going on, good brother, first and foremost?
And I'm blessed, man. You know, y'all here on 24th and Somerset. I call this place my home court. It's where I grew up at, born and raised. And you know, just to give y'all some background on myself, for those that may not know who I am. I grew up around here from a kid, raised as a kid. I grew up around the same environment as most people throughout the city. Grew up around violence, man. We grew up around influencers that, you know, didn't do the best job at steering us in the right direction. When you're young, you really don't know no better as far as how you need to move as a man. So, of course, when I was a kid growing up around here, I was exposed to a lot of things that kind of shifted my perspective on life. Like, I watched people get murdered around here. I seen a lot of drug dealing growing up. And although I had a wonderful mother who took care of me, it's like when you step outside the house, no matter how good your household is, the environment is still the same. Like, we all under the same conditions. So I was exposed to some conditions that kind of like pulled me into the streets at age, I want to say at age 13, 14 officially. And you know, one thing led to the next. I was going to war with a group of guys not too far from here. This block is actually called Truth for a Bloodline. That's what they call it. I ran with a gang called Truth for a Bloodline. And yeah, I was in the streets, man. 15, I got shot. Same year, I lost a close friend of mine. I watched him get killed in front of me. That kind of like, you know, traumatized me, made me angry, made my whole squad angry. Actually, you know, we was all young, and this was our first time experiencing a good friend of ours get killed. So that kind of turned us up a lot. So we was out here warring crazy. A bunch of shootings around here. I was arrested at 17, firearm charge, came home. 3 months later, got locked up for a shooting. Spent almost 5 years in prison, man. And you know, as you can see, during my incarceration, I grew up, I matured. It wasn't because of prison, but it kind of was like, you know, I wanted better for myself. I wanted better for my community. And I worked hard to change my mindset on what I wanted in life. You know, I wanted better for my family. So I worked hard, I surrounded myself with the right people. I've read a whole lot in jail. And I prepared the best I could. You know, I had mentors in there as well, lifers, people that got lifers. Shout out to Sean Davis, Tyrell Hart, these people that's got life in prison who helped me develop as a man. So when I came home, I kind of was already prepared to do this type of work in the community as far as violence prevention and just showing the young boys something different, like showing the culture something different. Like, you don't gotta be in the streets. Man, you can be successful outside the streets. So that's kind of like a little background on myself.
Alright, so let's pause right there. I'm gonna jump back into some of the stuff you've talked about, give people a little bit more in-depth detail on, you know, some of the experiences you had that led to you know, where you at currently today. So you said, you know, well, you know, we in North Philly, 24th and Somerset. Like you said, they call it 24th and Bloodline. You said you was you jumped out in the streets at a young age, like 13, 14, and around like 15, you said you end up getting shot due to a situation and one of your close friends died. And a couple years after that, you said you ended up catching a gun charge. Yeah. So between that period of time where you got shot, your friend died, and you catch the gun charge, was it a point in time, I'm just trying to get into your mentality a little bit. Yeah. So was it a point in time where you was thinking like, damn, man, this situation going kind of left. Maybe I shouldn't be, you know, involved in this. Maybe I should, you know, go a different route. Was it any point in time where that crossed your mentality?
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't very often, but I had moments where I knew what I signed up for. Like, I understood what was coming my way. I knew death and incarceration was like a real reality for me. But at the time, I really didn't know how to communicate and kind of talk to people who I needed to talk to get pulled out the lifestyle. So I kind of stayed in it. I mean, and you know, the streets move fast, so it's really hard to get pulled out the streets, and especially if you're not communicating with the right people. So because I wasn't communicating with the right people, and I still was actively out here. You talking about real wars where people got killed. It's like it was hard to pull myself out, man. So I stayed in the streets for a while until I got locked up or whatever. Went through my experience and got it together while I was in prison. But while I was out here, I was moving so fast, man. And like I said, the moments that I did have where I wanted out, I didn't really have nobody who I felt comfortable with communicating that to, who could understand my situation. A lot of people, some people didn't know. People that could help me really didn't know, because how I moved when I was in the streets, I wasn't a loud person. Like, people that was in the streets knew what I was doing out here, but a lot of elders and all that stuff, people that could really help me, they ain't really know until it was too late. Like, so yeah, man.
Right. So between the time that you got arrested the first time to the time you got arrested the second time, it was like a year and some change apart?
No, it was I came home from placement. I spent 10 months.
Oh, you said a couple months apart. It was a couple months apart. Yeah, my bad. I missed that.
I spent 10 months in placement. I came home like the end of the year. End of that year, I got locked up like 3 months later for a shooting.
3 months later.
On the scene for a shooting, actually. And,
so you was booked on the scene of the shooting?
Yeah, I was booked on the scene. Yeah.
All right. So now you're a young boy still. You 18 at this time. So you going in the prison after just leaving placement. So now it's a step up as far as the age bracket and all of that.
Yeah.
So what was that experience and what was your mentality going from the young boy placement joint to now you in there with the grown men and all that for a serious situation? Right?
It was a different mentality. I ain't even gonna hold you, because it's like you always hear the stories about jail, the penitentiary and all that stuff, but you never actually step into it. So when I was stepping into it, I kind of was already preparing my mind for it. Like, yo, you gotta kind of like treat the jails like you was treating the streets. You're locked up now with the big guys now, so you gotta come into the jails with the same street mentality. That's how I was. I was still young. I was 18, going on 19. So I came up with the same mentality that I had in the streets, still wild. But I ain't jumped right into it when I got in prison. I kind of like had to feel my way. I had to get to know the environment and what I was up against. But it wasn't long after being locked up. A few months later, I was on the same type time I was when I was in the streets. It's just knives and hands, man. Stabbing, fighting and all that type of stuff. Same stuff, man. But I was in jail.
Right. So at what point during your incarceration, because you did 5 years, correct?
Yeah, almost 5 years.
So you go in at 18, so at what point, because you said you was doing the same stuff at one point, like, just with the knives and all of that.
Yeah.
So at what point did your mentality switch where you like, you know what, let me get more on the positive path, because this ain't where it's at for real? Like,
I wouldn't even say it was a positive path, but it took like, I want to say like 2 years, two and a half years to be on the safe side. I had went upstate. I wasn't at the county no more. I got sentenced, went upstate. And
what was your sentence, by the way?
I got 3 to 10. 3 to 10.
Okay.
Yep. So when I got upstate, like a few months after being upstate, I had an awakening, man. I call it a spiritual awakening, where I don't know, man. I just started seeing life from a different perspective. Like, I didn't understand what I was going through because it was new to me. My mindset was always, I'm gonna die in the streets or spend the rest of my life in prison. So when I started, cause think about it, I'm like probably like 20. I want to say like 20 or 21. So I'm still young. I still got a lot of anger. So I started to have like an awakening, man. Whereas though I wanted better for myself, I understood the path that I was on. I'm like, yo, you gotta switch up your path, man. The way you moving. Man, you ain't moving right. Like, you got a family that care about you, that's doing time with you, even though they are physically in prison. And you could do better. You got the potential to be way better than what you are right now. So I started working on myself, man. Started working on myself in prison. Like I said, I didn't really know what was going on. This is new to me, wanting better for myself. I ain't never want better for myself. I just was, adapting to my environment. But once I started wanting better for myself, I kind of started surrounding myself with the right people. I understood that if I wanted to go home, what's going on, OJ? I'm like, if I wanted to go home, I had to learn how to move in prison the right way, because if you can't move in prison the right way and stay out of trouble in prison, you come out here, you don't stand no chance. That was my mentality. So I tried my best to stay out of trouble while I was in prison. And then when I got in conflicts with people, normally I go straight violent. Like I get into something with somebody disrespect me, to get violent. That was the mentality. But I had to change that. I'm like, listen, if you want to go home and stay home, you got to know how to get into a conflict with somebody, learn how to communicate, and not react violently. Because if you react violently, you're going to get sent to the hole, you're going to spend more time in prison, and you're not going to be prepared to go home and stay home. Because that's the goal, to go home and stay home. So, man, that was that moment where, you know, it started going better for myself. That's kind of like how it happened. Okay. And I did that for years. Like I worked on myself for years. The outside didn't understand that. Like people was hearing that I turned my life around, but they didn't believe it. They're like, damn, John was out here. They called me Blaze when I was in the street. Blaze was out here moving. Like he ain't changed. He gonna come home. He gonna do the same thing, and he gonna be back in prison or something like that. He gonna get killed out here. But you know, I stuck to my word, man. I told people when I would come home, I'm staying home. I'm staying out the way. And that's exactly what I did, man. That's what I've been doing for years, and that's hard to do. It's hard to reprogram your mind to think a different way, to move a different way. It's hard, but you know, if you work at it, you want it enough, you're gonna make those adjustments. Stay out here, man. And even if you stay out here and stay out the way, it's still a risk though. And that's the whole thing. That's the message I've been preaching on the internet with social media and Instagram. It don't even matter. Our environment's so bad that even when you turn your life around, you did stuff to people in the past. They might see you come home and try to smoke you, like they try to kill you, even though you turned your life around. That's stuff that people don't understand. Like it's never a 1-2 step when getting out the streets. It's not that simple. So,
right. No, definitely.
Yeah.
And to touch on, you know, briefly touch on the how you was talking about how tough it is to stay out here even when you stand out the way trying to do the right thing. Speak on the initial transition, going from, you know, in there almost 5 years to coming back outside. What was that initial transition like?
Man, that was a rough transition. Right? The only blessing that I had was that when I transitioned out of prison, I had a spot to go to outside my neighborhood. Like I was living in an area where I didn't have to worry about no shootings and stuff like that. I lived in a comfortable neighborhood outside of this neighborhood, but it was tough because you got to think about it. Before I got locked up, I was out here drawn, like I was out here moving in the streets. Like I was involved in a lot of violence in this neighborhood throughout the city. So naturally, you used to carrying guns. You used to carrying that gun on your hip because that's the only thing that protect you when you out here. That's the only thing you can rely on to really protect yourself. So I had to come home with enough faith and discipline not to carry a gun. I mean, that was a risk in itself. So that was like one of the biggest battles that I fought with internally. And you know, I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't even come down here until like it took me like 2 years or something like that to really feel comfortable with being out here. I mean, I had to talk to people that I was going to war with. I linked up with people that we was going to war with. So, you know, I knew I ain't really had nobody that I was beefing with at the time, but still, you still got that mentality where though you come from a neighborhood where getting murdered is the norm. So, you know, naturally you wanna carry. And then you gotta think about, before I got locked up, social media wasn't as popular as it is now. So I'm coming home to social media and Instagram. And that's pressure within itself, because when you decide to turn your life around, a lot of the times, you know, people don't embrace you. So I'm dealing with self-esteem issues now. But I was determined to stand on what I believed in and how I was gonna carry myself. But you know, I didn't get that same people didn't embrace me the same as they embraced me when I was in the streets. They seen that I've turned my life around, so they kind of was like, you know, they wasn't used to this type of person that I am today. But over time, you know, people started to embrace the change. They started to support me even more now than they would support me in the streets. So it's like that was like the biggest battle, man. You know, with that transition, man. Then money, like I always had money. So I come home to a drought. Like I really came home to a drought, whereas though I had a few dollars, but I was used to having more than enough money. But I had to sacrifice everything to become the person I am today. I had to really stay down and you know, stay focused on the process, man, to get to where I needed to get to and transition over time. I'm still transitioning though. I've been home for almost 5 years. I still feel like I'm playing catch up, but you know, the work that I've been putting in as far as in the neighborhood, I'm starting to see some benefits. Like, you know, I'm getting benefits, financial benefits, platform benefits. So, you know, I had to build from the ground up. I had to take the risk. What's up, bro? I'm chilling, doing a little interview. Yeah, man. This is my guy right here, man. You already know. Young was from the hood,
big
man.
Bro right
I respect
here,
100%, man.
Love Big Bro, man. You change his whole persona and shit like that, man.
Know,
you
bro.
gotta respect what Bro doing. Like,
I mean, these people that's really respected out here, like dudes that's really like respected out here. I ain't gonna get into details, but they respected around here. So
nigga ain't gonna do what Bro doing, man.
Yeah.
Nigga gotta respect it and support him. Like, shit, he trying better himself and ain't trying better the streets for us, for me, especially as young niggas. You feel me? Niggas, we grew up looking up to Bro, so it's like to see what Bro doing. This shit's 100. You gotta respect it.
This is what it's about, man. Like, you know, giving us a different outlook on life. Man, we all come from the streets. Like, I ain't no better than nobody that's in the streets right now. I'm just trying to make better choices. Like, we all a step away from, you know, being in a situation where, man, you might not see tomorrow, man, or you might get locked up. So I ain't far removed from the streets. Like, I still play the block. I still get respect out here the same way. So, you know.
Doing it a whole different way.
Yeah, we just trying to move smarter, man. We trying to learn from the other generation that came before us. So that's you know, like I said, man, they well respected. Yeah, I'm alright, bro. Well, you too, man. Stay on college. That's really what it's about, man. What's up, Dot? How you?
All right, so on that note, since you've been home, like you said, almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Has it been a period of time since you've been home where you're like, man, I'm about to go back to it. Like, I'm about to, man, jump back in the mix. Like, it's a little tight right now. Shit a little hard. Like, I might gotta jump back in for a little bit and then get out. Like,
listen, I had a lot of days like that. I'm talking about, I broke down crying a lot of times. Like, at the time I was living with my aunt. I was living in the basement or whatever. Of course, you know, I always had high expectations for myself, so I'm like, you know, I'm living down here for 2 years, I'm in the basement, man. But as a man, I'm like, dang, I'm used to having money. So I had a lot of moments whereas though I knew I could go to the streets and get money, because I know people out here that's really getting to it, and they offered me a lot when I came home, but I denied it. I'm like, no, I'm cool off that. So over time, 6 months down the line, a year, it starts to break you. It starts to break you when you're not in the position you want to be in, and that money not there, and you playing catch up, it'll break you. But one of the main things that kept me focused, even when I wanted to break, was that I started already building my new image as far as how I represent myself. So I knew I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I never told nobody they can't go to the streets and get money, but I wanted to put myself at a higher standard. So I tried my best not to, you know, break and get involved in that type of stuff, and I just so happened not to break. I'm strong up here mentally, so I never broke, man. I stuck to what I believed in. I believed that I could put in work over time, long term, and get long term results if I just stayed down and stuck to my process. But yeah, man, I wanted to break a lot of times. Let's get some money. What's going on? I'm chilling. Yeah, man. So yeah, man. Listen, that was the hardest thing I ever did in life, was come home and stay home and not break. I didn't cut no corners, no type of corners. So that was hard to do. But if another person cut corners, I'm not gonna criticize them, because I was a step away, man. I just so happened not to crack. What's up, bro? How you?
So now, Endangered Kind, non-profit organization.
Yeah.
Let's speak a little bit on that and what that's about.
So Endangered Kind, I founded Endangered Kind back in 2016, just to kind of help people understand what it is a mobile advocacy group aimed at shifting perspectives on violence. And what I mean by that is, I give people an inside view of the streets. Mass media, like the traditional platform, when they speak about gun violence, they don't speak from an inside point of view, because they never came from the streets. They don't know what it's like out here. They never been in a situation where you got to carry a gun to defend your life from people that's trying to kill you. They don't know how hard it is to transition out of that lifestyle. So I help people understand that violence from the inside inside, bro. So that's really what I aim to do with the platform. I help people understand the shooter side of things and what they go through while they're in the streets, because the media only going to demonize people that's out here involved in some of the stuff they're involved in as far as gun violence. But you got good guys that I know that's in the streets, that want to get out the streets, but they may be going to war with somebody who ain't trying to slide. So what are you really going to do? You going to let the person kill you? No, you're not going to let nobody kill you, because self-preservation is the first law of nature. So you're going to defend yourself. I mean, some people want to learn how to get money outside of the typical street stuff, but they don't really know, because ain't nobody really giving them the information to make that transition. So it's like I give people insight on gun violence from the inside looking out, man, and not just from the outside looking in. I mean, that's really what the platform is about. That's what the mission is about, man. I speak for the streets and trenches, man. Guys that's out here right now. I help get them. I help them navigate out the streets, man. That's my whole thing, because when I came home, I didn't really have nobody to really teach me how to get out the streets. I knew people that was in the streets that got out of it, but not during this time, though. So I had to learn my own formula, my own process. So that's what I be on, man.
Right.
Endangered kind.
And on that note, go ahead and plug your social media and all your info, so people who watching this may want to support, and I mean, reach out and all of that. How can they touch base with you?
So follow me on Instagram at Endangered_kind. That's ENDANGERED_KIND. You can check me out on my website as well, www.endangeredkind.com. Yeah, that's where you find me at, man.
All right. And on that note, man, before we get out of here, I just want to get your thoughts, or, you know, a little message to the streets, if you will, about what's going on in the city. Like recently, a 12-year-old boy just got killed up in Frankfurt and all of that. There's been a lot of homicides with little kids in the city, females, all type of stuff, man. So you say you speaking from, you know, perspective of somebody that been out here.
Yeah.
What's your message in regards to what's going on out here?
My message is, man, like, you know, at some point, if you're in the streets right now, at some point, you gotta start to look at life from a different perspective and try to find hope outside the streets, because right now, I know a lot of us are stuck in a situation where it's hard to get out the streets, but at the same time, even if you're in the streets, you have to lead by example. You gotta show these young guys that's out here that look up to us another way. Like we gotta, like I said, no matter if you're in the streets or not, it's your job as a man, just like it's my job, is to show these young guys another way. Like, and pour into these young guys so they won't make the same mistakes, man. We gotta change the cycle, man. At some point, to show these young guys they don't gotta be in the streets, because the world telling them that it's cool to be in the streets. Like the world is leading the younger generation in the wrong direction. So us as men of influence within our community, if you got young ones that look up to you, show them another way, man. Put them on some paper, show them something different that we ain't see growing up, man. So that's really my message.
I know that's right.
She right.
How you doing?
And on that note, man, we signing out. Till next time, John Solomon, Endangered Kind, Philly F.A.M.E. TV, live from the trenches. We out here.